Okay, thank you, Priyanka. So, welcome everyone to the original week two classroom session um, on forecast models and accuracy. So, this session is linked with module four, which is forecasting and supply planning. Now, forecasting and supply planning is a very big subject, and we are not trying to make you an expert through this program, but what we're trying to do here is to make you aware of the basic concepts of forecasting and supply planning, and also take you through some basic um, tools using which you can do a very basic you can prepare very basic forecasts. Okay. The idea here is to make you aware of how a forecast is prepared, what kind of data is required, what are some of the key challenges. Now, in today's session, what we are going to do is we have an Excel format, which hopefully all of you have already received. It should be in your inboxes. So we will use that Excel sheet to show you some basic forecast models. They're very basic because as data becomes complex, the forecast methodologies also become complex. And uh, today in the market, there are several automated tools as well, where you can just upload the data, and the tool will give you the forecast. But then the issue with using those tools is that you don't always understand the concept behind it, that how did that happen. So with this lesson and with this session today, the idea is to make you aware of those basic ideas. But before we move forward, um, let's let's do a quick poll today. This is the new year, and we would like to see how good or not good that you're feeling today. So I'm feeling amazing because this cohort is restarting today, and I'm just excited to see everyone back in the course. I have also been following the discussions, and there have been several very good responses from various participants. Some of them I see today as well, like Bellington, Faith, Kumbirai, Olga. You guys are doing excellent. But there are some people who are a bit behind. So I also encourage you to, come back to the program. You have paid for it. This is an excellent opportunity to, you know, get a globally certified supply chain certificate, and become part of this growing community. I mean, I don't know if we have told you, but just the supply chain community who have gone through this course is now 350 people strong, and they come from more than 25 countries in Africa and some beyond Africa as well. So as you finish this course, you will also become part of that growing community, which is growing every day. And you will also find new programs in this year. There is a new supply chain course which is almost ready, which will be launched very soon. Then we are also preparing a very detailed forecasting and supply planning course, where some of you who are doing that work, you can take that course to gain much more expertise of forecasting and supply planning. As I see on screen, most of us are feeling either amazing or good. So kudos to you. But there are a few of them who are okay or a bit low. And I hope throughout this session, I will be able to uplift your spirits, and you will go back much more happier than you came into this session. So with that, let me also show you some quick snapshots from the assignment from week one. Priyanka, please, yeah, try to mute if there is any noise. Thank you so much. So the week one assignment was to draw a supply chain flow including movement of product, information, and money, which we had discussed in one of the previous sessions, if you remember. So there are some submissions which are good. Some of them were quite basic, and there are still a lot of students who have not submitted the week one assignment. So I would again urge everyone to finish it. But let's quickly go through some of them. I mean, everyone have submitted for Zimbabwe, of course, but still I see some slight, small differences in each of these, flows. But this one is submitted by Kumbirai Bako. Um, if Kumbira, if you are present in the session, maybe you want to take not more than 5 minutes, please. If you want to explain what you have drawn. Kumbira, I think you are in the session. So maybe you would like to take us through very quickly how do you see Zimbabwe's supply chain and the various flows? I know I'm putting you on spot, but I think you have done this, so you know already. Kumbirai, can you hear me? No? Okay, all right. Then we can quickly go on to the next one. Yeah, Kumbirai, can you hear me? Someone was trying to speak. No? All right. Do we have Andrew Zapata in the session? Andrew. Yeah, Kumbirai, you just unmuted yourself. Maybe you want to speak. I can go back. Kumbirai. Okay. Andrew, if you're in the session, or then the last one is from Olga. Olga, I see you. So I think you are here. So maybe you want to explain what you have drawn very quickly, and then I will do a summarized version as well. Olga, everyone is a bit afraid. I don't know why. It's the new year. Let us show some new spirit. So Olga, Kumbirai, uh, Andrew Zapata, if you are here.
Yes, hello.
Yes, Kumbirai.
Yes, yes. How are you, sir?
Yes,
Hello.
yes, we can hear you. Please carry on.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So on this drawing, I have just explained how the movement of medical products, that is both including movement of the product and then the movement of information as well as the money within the supply chain. So this drawing, it includes both the private sector as well, non-organizations, as well as the public sector. Yeah, and also I illustrated how the money moves from the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of Health, and how it is used until we receive our products to district levels or to clinics as they go through to the customers. So the main issues I just described the movement of the product and information and money within the supply chain of medical products and services.
Excellent. So that's a great way to summarize, Kumbirai. Olga, Andrew Zapata, if you want to also just explain a bit more from your side before I summarize it. Okay, maybe not. So, like Kumbirai said, there are two different. We can look at it from two different lens. One from the private sector and one from the public sector point of view. The private sector one, I think it's a bit easier in terms of flow. There are less checkpoints, except of course when the private sector importers or wholesalers are importing, there is a check at the port. and those products have to be registered. But the products directly come from either outside of the country to the ports. From there, they go to the wholesaler, and from there, maybe there's a distributor who distributes it to the hospitals, pharmacies, wherever they are needed. So the other day when we were discussing with Greenwood wholesalers, so they had different consolidation points, three different places in the country, who receive the product and then sends it to their pharmacies and hospitals with whom they have the contracts. So that's a simple supply chain and flow of product. In their case, the money flow is quite simple. As they sell the products, that money goes back to the importers and wholesalers, who then respectively pay the suppliers from outside of the country or wherever the supplies are coming from. And the information is also very seamless. The private organizations, they're collecting the information from the pharmacies and the wholesalers, figuring out the consumption, and then based on that, making decisions for the supply. Now, when we go to public sector, it's a bit more complex, and I think it's quite well organized in Olga's diagram. So if you see here, there is NatFarm, MCAS, ZNFPC kind of in the center, and they are receiving products from various places, various donors, various technical agencies, and various suppliers as well. And then sometimes there is a parallel. If you see here, there is a parallel supply chain as well, because the National AIDS Council is sending products to a different type of clinics, while there are some also youth centers or some other dispensaries or other health clinics who are also receiving some other types of products. So it may be slightly complicated in the public sector. And it was also evident when I was going through one of the discussions where almost everyone said that there are lots of donors and technical agencies, and sometimes it gets very confusing to understand what's happening. This is quite true, not only for Zimbabwe, but other countries as well. And uh, the only way out of this scenario is to have your main organizations like MCAS, Ministry of Health, NatFarm, ZNFPC, these kind of organizations, they take a stand, they create a multi-stakeholder coordination framework, and they very specifically, in coordination with all these partners, define those roles, that who is doing what. Otherwise, it gets difficult to understand how the information is getting, it's flowing from one point to the other. There is a Priyanka, can you mute Shuvai? Yeah, thank you. Otherwise, there's always some confusion with respect to information and money, which eventually leads to a lot of confusion with respect to supply of products, leading to either stockouts, sometimes overstocking, uh, wastage, products they have expired and they have to be dumped off. So all these issues come, and a key reason being lack of coordination, or sometimes a lot of organizations uh, making decisions, like we say too many cooks spoil the food, so that kind of a scenario. But from your level, I think it's important to understand wherever you are, where the products are coming from, where are you further supplying those products, if at all. If you are at a health facility, then you're not supplying, you're just dispensing, but you are getting the products maybe from different sources. So that is something important to understand from a product point of view. And then similarly, for information and money, need to understand how that flow is happening, so that you can very specifically understand your own role in that supply chain. Okay. So moving on, very basic idea of quick snapshot on who's where. So we have a total of 39 participants in this cohort. It's a big number. All of you have paid for this course. Some of you, maybe it's been paid for by their organization. But whichever the case, this is an excellent opportunity for you to gain critical supply chain skills and, uplift yourself in comparison to your peers or other members of your organization. And we have been hearing several cases now from our earlier students in other countries that using the competencies that they have learned from this course, they are able to work better, and some of them have even received promotions. So if you see here, there are very few participants, like just 7 or 8 of them, who are actually following this course religiously. I would really like to congratulate Kumbirai, Andrew, Olga, Senzelve, and Faith, who are very diligently following the course. There are some of them who are slightly behind, but I would really like to see people who either haven't started. It's been more than 3 to 4 weeks, but people haven't started yet, or there are some people who are just at the beginning. So I would really urge them to pick up the speed, because now by the end of this month, this course is going to finish. And if you don't finish it in time, you will not receive the certificate. You will have to apply again. You will have to spend money again. It's a very strict procedure. We are giving you a lot of time to finish, but then if you don't finish even at the end of it, then we won't be able to give you any certificate. It's okay, Olga. Uh, Glad that you're following, and very happy that you are on track to complete the program. So all the best, and I hope people who are doing well, you can also motivate some of them who are not doing so well. So reach out to some of your colleagues. I think you may know a lot of them out of this list, as you see here. I can also zoom in slightly, or maybe Priyanka can do that. But you may also know some of them here. So just reach out to your colleagues. Just ask them why they are not being able to follow with the course, whatever issues that they have. And then we are also here. Priyanka is here. I am here. We have created a WhatsApp group. There is Wilson as well. And I know Priyanka is coordinating with a lot of students to make sure that they don't face any issues. So please reach out to us, reach out to your colleagues. But we sincerely hope that you are able to finish this course, because it will be an important milestone in your career as well. So with that in mind, uh, let's focus what is in week two. So week two focuses on module three and module four, which is about selecting the products which are needed in health supply chain and then planning for the demand. Now, when we talk about demand, we talk about forecasting, supply planning, and making sure that you know what are the quantities that are required uh, by your consumers or your patients, so that you can procure those quantities in the right way, uh, to be able to supply them to the service delivery points whenever they are needed. In week two, in this particular week, there is an assignment which is linked with, excuse me, there's an assignment on forecasting which is linked to today's classroom session. So make sure you pay a lot of attention, because if you are not able to figure out what we talk today, you will not be able to finish this exercise, and then you will not be able to move forward. So please pay a lot of attention to today's session. Only then you will be able to figure out the exercise for this week. There are some discussions and I have been following them. So please carry on contributing. And whenever I see a response where I think that I need to add more, I keep doing that. So please interact with me, interact with your fellow participants and colleagues. Uh, I don't know if you are aware, but as you discuss and express your opinions, not only you learn from that process, everyone who's part of that discussion learns from that process. So I just ask you to be expressive. Don't worry if you're writing it slightly wrong, or if you think that something has already been written, but just go and express your opinions. No one is judging you to do that, and everyone learns in that process. Yeah. So let's carry on with today's session. It is about forecasting. It is about different data sets which are required to prepare forecast. And then we will go through some basic methodologies to prepare forecasts. So before we begin, Priyanka, if you can launch this poll, I would like to know from you, have you done forecasting? And if you prepared forecast, do you find it difficult or do you find it very easy? So the poll is on your screen. So for example, for me, I have done it multiple times now, so I find it quite fascinating. But yes, if it becomes too complex with many products and everything, then it becomes a bit more cumbersome and tiring. But still, um, I find it quite you know good exercise to do. But still, it is a bit difficult. So if someone finds it difficult, so I'm with you. I myself, I don't have a background in statistics or making numbers speak. But I have found my own way of helping people prepare forecasts and everything. And whenever I was not able to do it, I would ask help from the experts. But the thing is, even if you want to ask for help, you need to be able to understand the basics. So now, as I see on the screen, 79% people have either not developed forecasts or they find it quite difficult, compared to 21% who find it quite easy to understand and develop forecast. So whoever let's get ready to contribute more in today's session. So very quickly, anyone who has okay, suddenly we have a drop in participant number. I don't know. Maybe the power went off in some particular area or something. Anyways, so if you are on module 4, you have seen this already. So quantification is a big process which eventually ends up in a supply plan. And the supply plan is given to the procurement team in general, who then sources that demand of whatever products that are needed and makes them available wherever they are needed in the service delivery points, hospitals, through the network of warehouses and distribution centers, and so on and so forth. But as you embark on that process, the first step is to define the methodology and collect relevant data. So you need to understand, first of all, what is the program or what is the category of commodity. So now here there are two different terms. People who are in the private sector, they may call it a category management or a product category. People in the public sector, you may call it a program. Okay, so for example, a family planning program or an HIV/AIDS program or a TB program, so on and so forth, or an essential medicines program. So generally, forecasting and supply planning in public sector happens by programs, and in private sector, it happens by different categories. So there are various categories, and there are also different ways of doing that. But they generally call it a category management, forecast of categories. So they do it like that. So you need to understand those program, the products. You need to understand what kind of data is available, from where the data will come, and based on that, you define a methodology. Then once you collect that data, then you do the forecasting, which is step number 2. You do the forecast, you prepare the forecast, based on which in step 3 you prepare the supply plan. So supply plan is slightly different from a forecast, which takes into account all the various stock data and your supplier data, and tells you how much you need to procure for a given period in the future, of course. And then finally, once your forecast and supply plans are approved and procurement has started, there is a step 4, which a lot of people miss. The step 4 is monitoring data and monitoring the forecasts and supply plans to understand their accuracy and keep editing them for future. And that is a very important step. And we will also look today how you can measure accuracy of forecasts. Okay. Now, today we are going to talk about step number 2, which is to prepare the forecasts. So it is here. So forecasting refers to predicting future events by carefully analyzing relevant strategies and plans, assumptions, and the environment. So forecasting happens everywhere. It happens in your house, it happens in sports, it happens in the stock market, in financial sector, and it also happens in health, in supply chain, in any supply chain as well, but in health as well. We try to estimate how much product would we need in a program in future, right? So that is what forecasting is. Now, before we move forward, there is a quiz. Now, this is a quiz, this is not a poll. We want to know what out of this data set that you see on the screen, services, surveillance, consumption, adverse events, and household data, which are the data sets can be used to prepare forecast. And then in the next slide, I will take you through some of these data sets, the correct answers, and we'll discuss them one by one. So very quickly, this is a quiz. There are 3 correct answers out of 5. So just find those 3 answers, tick them, and then we can move forward. Okay, so Priyanka, whenever you're ready, just show me the results. So now, for today's exercise, we're going to use these 3 data sets, which are generally used to prepare forecast. And as you see in the result of the poll, almost everyone is convinced that consumption data is used. And that is the only box which I showed you on my screen. So consumption data is the most common data set which is used everywhere. It simply means, okay, if in the last 1 year, my consumption data or the consumption level or the demand pattern is like X, then in the future, if the assumptions are more or less same, then in the future, consumption will also be like this. Or we can establish a trend of that.
Oh, and they fail to detect your speaker. Please make sure your speaker is properly connected. I don't know.
Back to you.
To detect your speaker, please make sure your speaker is properly connected.
Please try to make yourselves. Priyanka. Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, so I was saying consumption is the most common data set which can be used. So we can establish a trend of the pattern, and then based on that trend, we can extrapolate to see what will happen in the future. But apart from consumption data, in public health, we use 2 more sets of data. One is services data, which 63% of you got it right. A services data means how many people were serviced at a health facility or a hospital, for any given program. So how many patients came to visit, or how many consumers came, for example. So they are most likely going to come again, or a similar number of people can come again in the future as well. So based on that, we can also determine the quantities of products needed. The third one is surveillance data, or it is also called morbidity data. So you may have heard of morbidity data. It is also called surveillance data because uh, the data is actually collected by undertaking surveillance of diseases. So on your screen now, I have, there are all the three data sets, they are defined. So for example, on morbidity, if you see, if you know an annual incidence rate of a particular disease, or in this case, let's say for malaria, is 5% for a district. So you can more or less take an assumption that, okay, if the district, in that district, the population is 100 who are at risk for malaria. So the 5% of that population, let's say 5 people, they will eventually contract malaria. So you need medicines and testing and everything for those 5 people. So then you will, source those products accordingly. So this is the basic idea of how surveillance on morbidity data is used. Consumption, I already explained. Services is number of patients, consumers who visited the facility and got serviced. Like for example, 600 women came for family planning, and then they were given oral contraceptives or whatever. They may also get other products and services, but 600 women came to the facility in the last quarter. So that's a service data. You serviced these many consumers or patients. So using these three sets of data, we can prepare forecasts, and today we will see how to do that. Now, I don't want to extend, um, this session. So I may take out one odd scenario out of this session, but since you will get all the PowerPoints and Excel, you can go through it by yourself. And if you find any problems, you can, write to me or Priyanka, we can also discuss it in the next sessions as well. So Priyanka, I think at this stage, I will share my screen as well. So if you can enable the multiple sharing. So we have 4 scenarios in total. The first scenario is preparing forecasts using average monthly consumption calculations, very basic extrapolation of trend using AMC. The second one is using services data. The third one is a bit complicated. It's using morbidity or surveillance data for malaria. And then the fourth one is the same as the first one, but we will prepare the forecast using an Excel function called trend. So we will use trend, and then we will prepare that forecast. Now let's quickly go through the first case. Now in this is a district X, hypothetical district. It has a population of 200,000. You see the growth rate. It has 5 sub districts. It fully imports all the products, and Ministry of Health and everything is the key stakeholder. So now let me take you to the Excel. Priyanka, maybe you can shut your screen share so that everyone can see only mine. Otherwise, they'll have to. Yeah, okay, excellent. Yeah. So as you see on my screen, the objective for this is to prepare forecast using consumption data, using simple average monthly consumption calculation. I'll explain what average monthly consumption is. Okay. So here you have the same details again. So the product is ciprofloxacin tablet, 500 milligrams. It is available in a secondary pack of 100 tablets packaged into 10 blisters. So 10 blisters in one pack. Okay. And every blister having 10 tablets. So 100 tablets. It is used for typhoid, diarrhea, infections of lower respiratory tract. Now, we have the data of 24 months, the previous 24 months, and we have to prepare a forecast for next 12 months. Okay. We know the population, we know the growth rate of district X. Now, if you see here in these columns, this is the historical data, which has been collected from all the health facilities or service delivery points in district X and then consolidated. So here are the number of tablets being used for various purposes of ciprofloxacin. What we have done here is converted it into secondary packs so that it becomes easier to calculate. To do that, we have simply divided this number by 100 because in a secondary pack, there are 100 tablets. So every month in district X, they are using 82 packs, 90 packs, 70 odd, 100 packs, depending on what's happening, what kind of diseases, prescriptions, so on and so forth. Okay. That in total, in 2 years, in 24 months, they used 2,139 packs. We've just taken the sum of the 24 months of consumption. Okay. And we've come to this 2139 packs. Now, one more thing. This is an actual consumption data which district X has collected directly from the service delivery points. So this is the number of tablets which were dispensed to the patients. Hence, thereby 82 packs were being used in this month, in January 2017, across district X. Okay. There are several places where instead of using consumption data, people use distribution data or issues data, which means, let's say there is a store, there is a warehouse, and that warehouse has issued 100 packs of ciprofloxacin to the service delivery points, let's say 10 service delivery points. Now, uh, it's not necessary that all those 100 packs are being dispensed to the user, to the patient. So if we say that 100 is the consumption for that month, that would be a wrong estimate because the actual consumption might be something else. It might be 80, it might be 70, it might be 120. Some of the facilities may have some packs remaining with them. So issues data or distribution data is not the right reflection of consumption. Please do remember that. I can also write it here so that some of you can understand it better. Issues data or distribution data should not be used for forecasting. I mean, if you have no choice, that's a different story. But ideally, you should make an effort to collect actual consumption dispensed to user, that data from service delivery points. Okay, don't prepare forecasts based on issues data. Okay, now, so we have the data. So what we are going to do first is we are going to calculate what is the average monthly consumption. So we have the consumption for 24 months. We want to understand what is the average consumption. So we know the total number of packs which were consumed, 2139. We know the period, that is 24. So if we divide 2139 by 24, we get 89. Very simple. Okay, that's the average monthly consumption in those 24 months. Now, one more thing here. There are a lot of uh, resources for forecasting. There are a lot of resources for inventory management. And you may see in some places that to calculate average monthly consumption, they just take an average of 3 months. I mean, you can do that if you just want to know the possible consumption for the next month. So like creating a moving average. There's a technique called moving average. So you kind of take the average of the preceding months, 3, 4, 5 months, which tells you kind of what to expect in the upcoming month. Okay, but the underlying assumption is that your consumption is kind of standard. The trend is standard. There are no fluctuations, so on and so forth. So, but in public sector, especially for those products which can fluctuate, don't take average monthly consumption just by looking at 3 or 6 months of data. At minimum, look at 1 year of data. Best case scenario, look at 2 years of data, because that will tell you any fluctuations in a given month, any any particular issue that may have come about, any outbreaks, so on and so forth. So if you are taking an estimate of average monthly consumption for preparing forecasts, make sure in a best case scenario you have data for 24 months, and if not, at minimum at least 12 months. If you have anything less than that, don't use average monthly consumption to prepare forecasts. Okay. Now we get the average monthly consumption for the previous 24 months period. Okay. Now, when we are preparing forecasts, we always need to take some assumptions, because we are predicting events in the future and no one knows the future. So we can take some assumptions, okay, but we need to make sure that we record those assumptions. In this particular case, the assumption is that there will be an increase in population in the next year. We know that the growth rate is 3.2%. And we take this as a proxy to say that the consumption will also increase by 3.2%. It's a proxy, it's an assumption. We don't know yet, but we are just utilizing this because we think that the consumption trend may increase in future, since there will be more people. As there are more people, there may be more infections or whatever that is. Okay, so it's just an assumption, and then can be any number of assumptions that whatever is relevant and logical for that geography. Okay, so we take that proxy for 3.2% and we add it to our average monthly consumption of 89. So when we add 3.2%, it becomes 92. And we use that 92 to prepare, like, to say that, okay, if we multiply 92 by 12, so if you see here, this is the formula. If we multiply 92 with 12, we get the forecast for the next 12 months. Very simple. So our assumption is that we will need 1,104 packs of ciprofloxacin tablets, 500 milligrams, in the next 12 months, based on the data which we have from the previous 24 months. This is a very simple way of preparing forecast for one product. And similarly, we can create a big template where we calculate average monthly consumption for various products and then multiply with the number of months that we need the product for in future. Okay. Now, if anyone has any questions with respect to this calculation, this type of method, please, you can raise your hands or you can speak, or you can also put it on the chat while I go to the PowerPoint and show you some other things. So Priyanka, if you can quickly share, or maybe I can, let me do that. Let me do it myself. So it will be easier. Okay, have you already shared? Okay, yeah, it's your screen. All right, no problem. So if you have any questions, you can ask. In the meantime, Priyanka, if you can launch this poll. So here I want to understand how good you are with Microsoft Excel, because the first scenario that I talked about, there was no real calculations involved over there. There were very few, but now the ones which are coming after this, they involve a bit more of calculations and understanding Excel. So at this juncture, I would like to know how good you are with Microsoft Excel, so that if I'm speaking something about, functions or formulas, you are not lost. So let me understand, what is this group, how knowledgeable you are on Excel. Let's do that poll very quickly. Yeah. So one reflection from the exercise which I just showed you with average monthly consumption, it is very helpful if you are preparing forecast only for a health facility, for a small place. You can also calculate, okay, BP phone. Do you want to say something? You've unmuted yourself. I don't know who BP phone is. Okay, BT phone, if you're not saying something, then please mute yourself. Now, average monthly consumption you can also use to calculate months of stock available at a facility. So, for example, you have 100 packs of ciprofloxacin. Priyanka, if you can mute BT phone. So, for example, you have 100 packs of ciprofloxacin available at a health facility. And you know your average monthly consumption is 30 packs. So you know that you have 3 months of stock remaining, more or less, a bit more than 3 months at a facility. And based on that, you can make future orders. It is also useful if the consumption is steady. If there are lots of fluctuations and very different types of ups and downs, crests and troughs, it is not very advisable to use AMC because you may miss out on certain fluctuations. Priyanka, if you can show the poll screen again. I think if I remember, 75% of them, they said they have a very basic Microsoft Excel skill, and they haven't used it to develop forecast. So okay, I will go slow. In this case, I will skip one scenario because it might be a bit more uh, too much for you. But I will take you through the trend analysis, because with that you will be able to answer the assignment for week 2. Okay, so now let's go to, let's not use this poll again. That's fine. If you have any question, answers, please, you can ask. You can also put it on chat. But if you want to speak, please do that. I felt that with this group, you are a bit reluctant to speak now. I don't know why. Maybe it's internet, maybe it's the subject, I don't know. But please don't shy away in asking questions, whatever they are. I will be happy to answer them. Okay. So now let's go to scenario number 2. In scenario number 2, the commodity is medroxyprogesterone injection acetate. Medroxyprogesterone acetate injection, DMPA, or brand name Depo-Provera. You may also know with that brand name as well. It's a contraceptive. It's an injectable contraceptive. Okay. Yeah. Wait, Priyanka. Hold on. I'll let you know when to disable your screen. Just hold on. So it's a injectable contraceptive. It comes in a pack size of 24 syringes in one pack. Okay. It is required once every 3 months, almost about 3 months. And in this scenario, we are going to prepare a forecast for 12 months. And there is a program target set by the Ministry of Health that women who are on oral contraceptives, specifically who are on oral contraceptives, 50 to 60% of those women need to be transitioned to this injectable regimen. Okay, so there is a program target put on the family planning program. So Priyanka, now you can disable your screen. I'll take them to the Excel. Okay, so now it's the same district X with 5 sub-districts. Population is the same. Now here we have one more set of data. We know from the population index that women between the age of 15 and 49, reproductive age women, there are 60,000 of them in district X. I hope you understand this when I say 15 to 49 reproductive age, because contraceptive is going to be used by them only. Okay, you don't need contraceptives for girls below the age of 15, and you don't need contraceptives for women beyond the age of 50. Okay, so very specifically we know that data, that there are 60,000 women who are in the reproductive age. Then we don't have consumption data because this is a new program. So if it is a new program, we can't have consumption data for this product. Okay, we have consumption data for oral contraceptives, but it will be difficult to equate the consumption of oral contraceptives because the regimen is very different. In the first visit, they get X number of tablets. Then next visit, they get another set of tablets. So it becomes very difficult to understand how many women were there, how to equate that consumption with the consumption of the injectable. So we are using services data. Now, in District X, there is a repository of consumers. So we know month on month how many unique women attended the clinics or service delivery points to receive oral contraceptives. So this is the number now, and these are unique. I mean, these women may have come back again, but we're only talking about the unique number. Okay. So we know that in last year, in 1 year, 25,116 women, unique women, they received oral contraceptives out of 60,000. So out of 60,000, almost 25,000 women received oral contraceptives. So that is, first of all, 25,000 is our first set of target. Okay. So the program target says that women who are existing users of oral contraceptives, 60% of them should be transitioned to injectable. Okay. So at minimum, 15,000 women, which is 60% of 25,000, 15,000 women will have to be given medroxyprogesterone. Okay. Now, since there are 60,000 people in District X, and some other women may also choose to directly take up injectable. They may not go to the oral contraceptives, they may directly take up injectable. And there will be some advocacy as well. So now we take an assumption that 10% new users will take this new contraceptive based on advocacy. So 10% of 60,000, which is 6,000. So now from the bigger lot, we take an assumption that 10% may also adopt this contraceptive. So now for the next year, for the forecast period, we know that 15,000 plus 6,000 women, which is 21,000 women, will need this contraceptive. Okay. Now, here we need to understand something called CYP, couple year of protection. And when I go back to the slide, I will explain a bit more. What this means is that how much of the product is needed in 1 year to avoid pregnancy. Okay. Now, in this product, which is an injection needed every 3 months, so it's a simple calculation that you need 4 injections in a year to avoid pregnancy. So in this case, the CYP factor is 4, which is here. Now, which means these 21,000 women in the next year, each of them will need 4 injections if they want to successfully avoid pregnancy in the entire year. Hence, the total number of injections that this program needs is 21,000 multiplied by 4, which is 84,000. And if we divide this by 24, which is the number of injections in one pack, then we know we need 3,512 injections, 3,512 packs of these injections in the next year. So in this case, there was no consumption data, there was no trend analysis. We just knew these many women are there, and based on some logical explanation, we ended up with the forecast of the product required in the next year. I don't know if you have prepared a forecast like this before, but this is also a very common method especially in family planning program. This is very common in family planning program to use services data. Okay. It can also be used in HIV/AIDS program, people who are on antiretroviral treatment, because it's the same set of people who will keep on coming back. So if you know how many people are on ART therapies, You can just use the number of people, and whatever the regimen that they are using, you can identify how much of that regimen will be needed. Okay, so this is a way of preparing forecasts using services data. So Priyanka, can we go back to the slides? Excellent. So like I was saying, CYP factor. Couple year of protection is the measure that estimates the protection from pregnancy provided by contraceptive methods during a 1 year period. So it's a research based method. So for example, for oral contraceptives, pills, a woman needs 15 pill cycles in a year to be able to successfully avoid pregnancy. If a couple, male and female, married couple, if they are using condoms, then they would need 120 condoms in a year to successfully avoid pregnancy. And then we can send you resources. There are resources where for all family planning products, implants, other types of contraceptives, inserts, female condoms. There's so many. There are at least 12 or 15 different types of contraceptives for which you can see the couple year of protection factor, like 15, 120, or 4, whatever that is. Okay. Now, the scenario that we went through, two key challenges. There was no consumption data, there was no supply data because it was a new program and new product. So whenever you're faced with these challenges, when you don't have consumption data, you can refer back to the service data and then utilize the treatment regimen or couple years of protection factor if it is a family planning program to calculate your forecasts. Now, very quickly, if you have any questions, if you have done something like this, okay, I see something chat. Okay, CYP. So like I said, CYP is couple years of protection. Okay, so like here, if you see on this slide again, so CYP is very specifically for family planning. Okay, very specifically to family planning. It is not used in any other program. Okay, so don't use CYP for an HIV/AIDS program. It won't work. There is no measure called CYP there. Very specifically, this is for family planning program. Okay, the amount of contraceptive needed in 1 year to avoid pregnancy. Okay, so it's different for different contraceptive method, like you see on the screen. For pill cycles, 15, condoms 120. We saw for medroxyprogesterone, it's 4 because 4 injections are needed in 1 year. Okay, so any other questions? You can speak up. You can put it on chat. It is going to be more and more complex now. So the scenario 3, I'm not going to take you through Excel, but let me just explain what we want to do in scenario 3. So for scenario 3, it's a malaria program. Okay, we know the product, artemether lumefantrine, 20 mg, 120 mg. Now, this product is very peculiar because it comes in various pack sizes depending on age. So if it is for children, then you have 30 blisters of 6 tablets. Then again, moving up with age, 30 blisters of 12 tablets, 30 blisters of 18 tablets, and for adults, 30 blisters of 24 tablets. Okay, so in one pack in adults, you have 720 tablets in one pack. Okay, and the regimen it's a 3-day regimen. So for children, they take 2 tablets per day, while in the adults, they take 8 tablets every day. Okay, so the regimen is different. It's still a 3-day regimen. Now, in this scenario, there is no consumption data. There are no service data. There's nothing. We literally have nothing. We just know that the number of children that they're there. We know the prevalence rate of malaria in district X. So in this scenario, if you go, when you look at the Excel, you will see that forecast is being prepared using that prevalence data and population data. Okay. And then once we get to know prospective numbers of patients in the next year, we multiply that with the number of products that may be needed. Okay, which is here. So children need 6 tablets per day. Adults need 24 tablets per day. So using that treatment regimen, we prepare the forecast. So this is a demographic and morbidity based or surveillance based forecast. Demographic means we know the population data, we know how many children are there. The morbidity or surveillance data means we know that what is the prevalence of malaria in district X. So I'm not going to the Excel because it will take a lot of time, because I want to cover the scenario number 4, which is more important in this case. Okay. Now, let me just take a break of 1 minute. I need to drink some water. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please think. You can also put it on chat. I'm just coming back in 10 to 20 seconds, and then we'll take you through scenario number 4. Okay. Okay. So I'm back. So in scenario number 4, the data and the context is same as scenario number 1. So it is again ciprofloxacin tablet, 500 milligrams. It is used for typhoid, diarrhea, infections of lower respiratory tract. Essential medicines program. Product available in a pack of 100 tablets. But now in this case, we will not use average monthly consumption, but we will do a trend analysis. And using that trend analysis, we will prepare a forecast for the next 12 months. Okay. Okay. So after this, we'll have a poll. So Priyanka, maybe you can disable the screen and then I'll take them to Excel. Yeah. So this is just to show you forecast 3. Please, it's very logically presented. So please go through it on your own. If you find any difficulties, please reach out to us. But it is just using demographic data and morbidity data. Okay. Now for forecast scenario number 4. So we're going to revisit ciprofloxacin with trend analysis. So what is trend analysis? Let me show you first using a graph. So the data is same. We have the consumption of tablets from January to December, 24 months, January 2017 to December 2018. So if we plot this consumption on a graph, it looks like this, the orange line. You see it goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down, then again goes up. So if we prepare a trend line for this, consumption pattern going up and down, the gray line that you see here, this is a trend line. It's something called a trend line. Then what is the trend? So trend means it prepares a line which kind of it's also a kind of an average. So you see the line is touching many points in the center. Okay. So it's like the trend. So this is the trend line. So if we extrapolate that trend line, what will happen? Because this trend we are seeing, it's going like this. So if the assumptions remain same, so the trend line will remain the same, right? So we extrapolate it and then we calculate this portion, this, the black area that I'm now holding. So if we calculate this area, then we will get to know our projected consumption for the next 12 months. So how do we do that? So first is very simple. We just plot everything just like previously. So month by month, we have the data written down. Then we will use the trend function of Microsoft Excel. So the trend function works like this. First, we will prepare the trend of the known timeline. The known timeline is January 2017 to December 2018. That is our sorry, one second. Yeah. So our known timeline, we will use a formula where we say, okay, let me just show you the formula here. So trend, it says known y's and known x's. Now in this case, our y-axis is the consumption and our x-axis is the timeline. So we know the current consumption, we know the current timeline. So whenever we are using trend, what we need to do is we need to select the entire timeline, 24 months, like this. And then we write the formula is equal to trend known wise. That is our consumption. Okay. Known wise. Okay. Comma. Then we do our known x. That is the timeline. Now, an easier way to represent timeline is by doing this period 1 to 24 rather than using the months. So I'll use the period 1 to 24. Now, in this case, because we have selected the entire timeline, okay, we will do Control Shift Enter. So this is a very specific technique for trend analysis and a couple of other functions. We don't put in the bracket and then press enter. We do Control Shift and Enter. So we do Control plus Shift plus Enter. And when we do that, as you saw here, the entire timeline got plotted. Now, of course, this is in decimal points. So if I just remove the decimal points, you will see that it is same as what is already been plotted here. So this is the existing trend. This is this gray line from January 2017 to December 2018, the trend of this period. Now, what is our objective? We want to extrapolate this trend from January 2019 to December 2019. Okay. Now the formula changes slightly. The process is same. We select the entire area. We do trend. We have the known y's. Okay, same process. First known y's, then the known x's, and then the new x. What is the new timeline? We have the new timeline here, the next 12 months. Okay, and then we do Control Shift Enter. Now, as we do that, it plots the trend, it extrapolates the existing trend and takes it to the timeline that we want. Let me just remove the decimal points. You will see it's as same, which is already plotted here. So the trend is like 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, going up to 95. Now this is every month system is giving us, this trend function is giving us an average value of consumption. Okay. So it is not, it is factoring all the ups and downs, and based on that, creates a smooth average across all 12 months. Now, how do I get to the forecast of next 12 months? I just need to add the average consumptions, projected consumptions of the next 12 months. And when I add it, it becomes 1,122 packs. So as per trend analysis, we will need 1,122 packs in the next 12 months. Now, if I use the average monthly consumption, it gave me 1,104. So you see, there's already a difference. The data set is exactly the same. With average monthly consumption, it's 1,104. With trend analysis, is 1,122. In this case, we still haven't factored in increase in population. We haven't taken any proxy. This trend analysis is saying that if the underlying conditions of the last 24 months, they stay the same, then we will need 1,122 packs of ciprofloxacin. Now here, it's the wish of the program team if they want to use the same data, same number, or they can also add 3.2% as a proxy, which we did earlier as well. But it's totally dependent on the program team based on how they do the trend analysis. But if I add 3% additional, so then I would need 1,158 packs. If I also add, a proxy assumption that consumption will change because there will be more people. Okay. But trend analysis works like this. This is the concept. We establish a trend and then we extrapolate it. Okay. Let me take a breather of 2 minutes. I know it might sound a bit difficult in the first go, but it's very simple. Trust me, it's very simple. You don't, it just needs one formula, and you just need to select everything, add the formula, and voila, your data is there. Okay. And then you calculate, and then you find your forecast. It's as simple as that. So you need a basic understanding of Excel, and you should be able to do trend analysis on your own. Okay. Do you have any questions? Please, if you ask, that will be great. I see people are dropping out as well. Maybe I'm boring them to death. So I would not take a lot of time after this. There's just one more forecast accuracy thing to discuss, and then you can all go back to your work and chill out in the evenings. But if you have any questions for this, please, you can raise your hand, you can put in the chat. Priyanka, very quickly back to the slides. Okay. Now there's a quick poll. Priyanka, if you launch it, and then I will go to the next thing while we do the poll. Okay. So what I want to know is, what data set are you using in your country or organization to develop forecasts? Okay. And then I will discuss why I'm asking this question. The final section, Akileen is saying you're not boring us. We are just multitasking between lectures and work. Akileen, I know all of you are busy. That's why we are recording this session. And then you can also take a look at this at a later time. So please, if there is some pressing work, you can leave as well. But yes, try to pay attention, because the assignment for week 2 is based on trend analysis and average monthly consumption, both the things which I discussed today. Now, Um, why do we only use consumption data? Why don't we use services data, demographic data, surveillance data? So, I mean, even in the poll, it's either consumption or a combination of consumption and services. We're not using surveillance data, we're not using demographic data, we're not doing any scenario building. Why are we not doing that? Because they are difficult to do and difficult to collect as well. The data is difficult to collect because you need to go beyond your health facilities or warehouses, right? That's why we don't do that effort. And in public health, our forecast accuracy in general is not more than 25%. It's always bad. Last year, no, not last year, 2019, I mean, I'm still living in 2020 because for me, COVID is still there. So 2019, there was a USAID report of their global health supply chain program, which is all across the world. And there was a report on forecast accuracy for several products. For family planning, their forecast accuracy was only 27%. For HIV, it was a bit better. It was about 40 something percent. But overall, for all the various programs that they were supporting, the forecast accuracy was something about 20-22%. So why does it happen? It happens because we're only relying on consumption data. And it's not right. You need to be able to collect other sets of data and triangulate that data together, compare different forecasts together to see how right or wrong you are going. Okay. Also, there's one more thing that you can do, which is forecast accuracy. Now, before 2019, or sorry, before 2020, before the COVID pandemic came, people were doing their normal forecasting. No one knew COVID will come. No one saw that the demand for medical gloves and face masks, they shot up 1,000, 10,000, 1 million times across the globe. No one knew. Okay. So this is a one-off scenario as well. But then every year, and I also saw this in your discussions, that every year you are facing stockouts. Every year you're facing wastage, expiries. But if I ask you what you're doing about it, you may not have much of an answer. What you need to do is you need to monitor your forecasts and every year understand how accurate your forecasts were. How do you do that? You use a very simple measure, uh, either MAD, mean absolute deviation, or very simply just use mean absolute percentage deviation, MAPE. Simply saying in percentages, how far how far was your forecast from the actual consumption, because you're preparing your forecast for future. So when the future becomes present, you need to collect that actual consumption data and compare against the forecast which you prepared 1 year, 1.5 years in advance. Okay, so there are three of these indicators you can say. Okay, mean absolute deviation, which is very simple, sum of simple mistakes. It's an absolute error that, okay, I forecasted 20 packs, but actually consumption was 25 packs. So the deviation is of 5 packs. That's the deviation, absolute deviation. The deviation will be 5 packs only if my consumption was 15. Now I'm talking absolute here. In this case, I'm not talking positive or negative deviation. I'm just talking about absolute deviation. If it was 15 and the forecast was 20, the deviation is 5, which is minus 5. And if the forecast was 20 and the consumption was 25, then your deviation is plus 5. Okay. So in this case, in MAD, and I'll show you how to do this. We're just simply saying in absolute number, what was the error in absolute numbers? How far were we? Now, another indicator that we use is called mean squared error. Now, this is helpful in those cases when we want to understand um, where the error rate was very high and then find the cause for that. What it does is it puts more weight on large errors, which facing sound problems can't hear properly. I'm so sorry to hear that, Viriri. But maybe when the recording is available, you can try to listen in again. But I hope my sound is okay, Priyanka. If you can just
Yeah, Sanjay,
okay.
your audio is audible.
Okay. So maybe I'm sorry, Viriri. Maybe you can check the recording when it is there. Okay. So sorry. So what mean squared error MSE does, it I don't want to use this term, but it glorifies your error so that you can see where the error is big. Okay. And then finally, the percentage error, which I discussed before, that you can very simply say that we were off by less than 4% or our error was 50%. So it's very simple to understand, okay, we were quite far or very less, whatever that is. Okay. So let me now take you back to the Excel. So Priyanka, if you can disable your screen, and then we'll go to forecast accuracy. Okay. So now here what we will do is we will compare two forecasts that we have developed, one using AMC on scenario number 1, ciprofloxacin, and one using trend analysis on scenario number 4. And we will compare these two forecasts against the actual consumption, which is here. Okay. So for January 2019, December 2019, this was the actual consumption which happened in District X. So that program collected month by month consumption from the entire district. And now we are comparing this consumption against two different sets of forecast. Okay. Now, if we take the example of AMC, which means that every month on average, we are using 92 packs. Okay, that's how we calculated our forecast. And if we take the trend analysis, then it is a different amount month on month. Okay. Now here, if you see, these three columns are for comparing the AMC against actual consumption. And these three columns are to compare the trend analysis forecast against the actual consumption. So first is mean absolute deviation. So we will also calculate it month on month. So in the first month, the deviation between the forecast and the actual consumption was 3.8. How did we arrive at that? So ABS means absolute. That's the formula for absolute. And then we subtract this forecast from the actual consumption. So 88 minus 92. But since we have used the absolute function, the result will be positive only. So that deviation was 3.8. Then next month 3.2, 4.8, 0.2, and it keeps on going. So for the entire year, if we take the average, we take the average of the entire year. We're not going to add this. We're going to take an average of this. When we take the average, we can say in this year, for this program, for this product, the mean absolute deviation between the forecast and the actual consumption was 5.98. Okay. Now, next is mean squared error. What it does is we just square the mean absolute deviation. So this is the formula for squaring this small symbol. So as you do that, and then, in squaring is squaring by 2. So I12, which is this one, 3.8, it's the square of 3.8 is 14.44. Now, why I was saying this is important. Now, very simply, if you just look at this data, suddenly your eyes will go to these numbers: 174, 104, 96. or maybe 84 as well. These are the big numbers. Here you may not look at it because 3, 4, 6, 9, 10, it seems okay, there are small errors. But as soon as you square them up, these start to look very big, these 4. So then you go back to those months and then you analyze how suddenly your consumption was either too high or too less. And then when you do the forecasting in the next period, you take this into account. Okay. And then the last one is mean absolute percentage error. So same every month on month, we will understand the percentage. To do that, it is the error divided by actual consumption. So I12 divided by F12. Okay. If I divide I12 by F12, mean absolute deviation divided by actual consumption, I get the absolute percentage error. So for every month, I calculate the absolute percentage error and then I take the average for the entire year. So when I take the average, it means for this year, using the AMC forecast methodology, the forecast error was 6.25, which means the accuracy was 100 minus 6.25. Okay, something wrong. 100 minus. Okay, anyways. Okay, something is wrong. But anyways, it means about 94% or 93.7% accuracy. So the forecast had an accuracy of close to 93%. We do the same calculation using the forecast made with trend analysis. So we calculate the mean absolute deviation month by month and absolute percentage error month by month. And when we take the average, in this particular case, we see that the trend analysis, in this case, the error was slightly less than when compared against AMC. Now, this is only for the purpose of this scenario. It may or may not be true in real events. Okay. However, trend analysis has proven to give better forecast accuracies than using AMC or anything else. Okay. So in general, trend analysis is better. Okay. So in this case also, we have shown that it has slightly better accuracy, 95% accuracy compared to 93% accuracy of using the AMC forecast. So if every year you do this exercise, you know that how bad or good your forecast is, then you can also factor this when you are creating your forecast. Now, if you know that from the past 3 years, you are estimating less by 10%, for example. Okay, then when you do the calculation and for the next year, you can add that 10% into your forecast, because you know that you every year more or less you have a 10% error where you forecast less. Similarly, if you see that you are forecasting more every year and you are having wastage, so next year you can deduct that amount from your forecast already, because you know you don't need that. Okay, or you take an average so that the impact is less of that wastage. Okay, so every year this has to be done. You cannot skip this step. Every year, for every product, for every program, you need to understand your accuracy and then find ways to make it better. Okay, so this was the calculations for forecast accuracy. Let's go back to the slides so that we can end this session. Yeah. Okay.
I've got a question. Sorry, I've got a question.
Yes, please.
Looking at the two, with a demonstration there, we've actually seen that the trend is better to focus, to use in focusing than the AMC. Doesn't it also then prove that most probably our AMC, the assumption of the growth rate, which was maybe 3.2, which usually may be given by the statistical offices within countries, maybe for the next 5 years, this is the one that actually makes it wrong, the assumption of the growth rate.
So what's the question?
So the question is it not because now we are having the trend being like a better method because the assumption of the 3.2 is the one that is wrong actually?
Okay, no, okay, so, all right, I understand what you're saying. So these are fictional examples, first of all. So Priyanka, if you can quickly disable your screen so that I can show the Excel again. Yeah. So first of all, Lloyd, these are hypothetical fictional examples. Our objective is not to bind you with the data from district X. Now you're right that if I take this number, 1158, for example, and then adjust my forecast on a month-to-month basis, the forecast accuracy of trend will be lower. I totally agree with you. You know, there will be more error in that case, most likely. Okay. However, the objective is not to show that. The objective is to show, first of all, how you do trend analysis and how you do forecast accuracy analysis. The reason I'm saying trend analysis has better chances of giving you the accurate results, because the average is, it's not a standard average. It's in the formula itself, it does a lot of smoothing in itself, and it tries to compensate your ups and downs in a very logical manner. In comparison to average monthly consumption, which is a very rough average of, okay, that, you know, if I'm using 100 over 10 months, then I know that in the next 10 months as well, I will be using 100. And then I add a couple of more assumptions to make it slightly higher. So that is a very rough estimate. You know, that is not a very scientifically, it's not very scientifically enabled estimate. In comparison, using trend analysis is a much more scientific method of preparing forecasts. It has better viability, I would say. Yes, in some cases, suddenly, you know, in some cases, AMC can also give you good results, but that may not always be true. But if you continuously use trend analysis, you will see that over a period of time, you will be able to establish a standardized trend for your consumption patterns. Okay. And then you will know, once you've established that trend, what is your assumptions, what kind of growth rate is going to be, and then your trend analysis will be very accurate. So it takes a bit of time to establish the correct trend with the right assumptions and everything. But once you're able to do that, that's when your job becomes easier. And this is even more helpful for a specific health facility where you are trying to understand how much of inventory you must keep, you know. So you can simply do a trend analysis for your products, check the trend from the last 2 to 3 years, which will already include your fluctuations. And the trend analysis will factor in those fluctuations when creating the trend line. There are even better methods. I mean, I'm not going towards that. We call them regression analysis. That's even complicated. There are lots of formulas involved. There you even get a better picture. Okay. But the key here is that you need to do this every time. You can't just do it once and leave it. So if you keep on repeating the trend, then you plot for 4, 5, 6 years, then you will see a very logical trend, which with all the assumptions that you will have, you will be able to work on it for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Okay, because these things won't change all of a sudden. Yes, COVID-19 was a very specific event which changed a lot of things. But if you just for a minute forget that there was COVID-19, for a lot of products, a trend analysis would work year on year. You know, it's a we call it basic year on year growth or basic year on year trend. COVID-19 kind of instances, they come once in a while, but in general, trend analysis is a very good method of understanding your forecasts. So I hope I've answered your question. Again, I'm not trying to tell you uh, which method is better or which method is worse. I'm trying to tell you these methods are the basic methods. But of course, trend analysis, if you do it in a correct way, or if you have better tools like regression analysis, or if you are using SPSS, for example, it's a different tool altogether. It's not Excel. SPSS is a different tool altogether. So they are very powerful quantitative tools. There's a new tool called Tableau. There's a new tool called R. It's very simple. It's called R. That's it. So these are new tools and they're very powerful. They're even 100 times more powerful than Excel. Okay. So if you know how to use those tools, you can get even better results. But to start with, Excel is a very good tool to prepare your forecasts. We are working on, like I said before, we are working on uh, a forecast and supply planning course as well. And there, if you have good understanding of Excel, do join that course sometime later in 2023, because it will also give you much more understanding of these methods and eventually will give you a template where you can plot your products, use these methods and prepare your forecasts and keep on analyzing this at the same time, because it will have the forecasts, it will have the accuracy analysis, all of it at the same time. Okay. So if you are more interested to know about forecasting and more about supply planning, which is another thing, so do join us about 6 months later when we launch the forecast and supply planning course as well. So thank you, Lloyd. Any other questions, Priyanka? We can go back to the slides. So if there are no other questions, so this was the end of the session. There is just one feedback poll left. If Priyanka is able to launch that. If not, and then if there are no other questions, then we will close the session. So Priyanka, over to you.
Yeah, I don't think the poll is working. Maybe you take the host and you try.
Okay, let me try that. Yeah, so the feedback is on your screen. I've tried to provide you as much as details as possible. I know it can be a bit overwhelming because, like you told me initially, that your Excel skills are not that great. But I urge you to work on your Excel skills. Priyanka, remember we had shared some Excel tutorials in the past.
Yes.
So maybe please share the same ones uh, to this entire group as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I can say that very confidently. If you improve your Excel skills, you will find that your job in supply chain has become at least 30%, 40% easier. So do invest in Microsoft Excel skills. We will share some basic tutorials, but you can do much more. You can learn much more about Excel by yourself, by some course. And actually, everything is on YouTube. Just go on YouTube, do a basic tutorial that we will send you. And then based on that, based on your own work profile, do much more advanced tutorials of Excel and try to learn it as much as possible, because it is going to help you. If you're working in supply chain, if you're working with products, if you're doing any type of forecasting or calculations, just learn Excel. Okay, it will help you everywhere. Yeah. So with that, thank you so much. Uh, Thank you for good feedback as well. We're very happy that you are liking the sessions as well. I again, once again, urge you to go to the platform and finish your course. The people who are doing that, I'm very happy with you, all of you, your responses, the way you are proceeding forward. We're going to have a blast, and also uh, some of the people have left, but we're also trying to plan a face-to-face meet in Harare. I mean, we won't be there, of course, but with IAPHL, with CM Comms, at the end of this cohort, we're trying to plan a certification ceremony. So whoever will get the certificate, they will be invited, and they will be handed, the certificate will be handed over to them there, physically as well. And there will be some guest speakers. You will be able to interact with each other. Maybe you have not met each other, although you're in the same country. Whoever has finished the course, whoever is in Harare, they can come and join us. I mean, people outside of Harare as well are welcome to come, but because there is a travel involved, you can also join online like we will be. So more information in the coming weeks, but first you have to finish the course. You have to get that certificate to be able to participate in that certification ceremony. Otherwise, it will be very awkward if you don't get the certificate and you are in that ceremony. I mean, you can still be there for networking, but we will be really happy if you are there and you get that certificate. It will be your hard work, and it will help you in your careers as well, definitely. That we are very sure of. So I again, once again, urge everyone to please go on the platform, finish your program, participate in these weekly sessions as much as possible. Even the next week is actually a group session. So I would really like to see all of you work together, since you are from the same country. And even the case that we have is very much similar to the case of Zimbabwe. Okay, so it will be great if all of you are present, and we'll have a blast next week as well. So with that, let me stop the recording.